if you have body dysmorphia to such a degree that you feel compelled to mutilate yourself in order to balance your psychological self-perception with your physical self-perception, that's incredibly sad. And I feel bad for you. And I want you to sort of like get help and get the help you need. Okay. But this is an extremely rare and severe kind of mental illness. And it needs to be called such. And the mistake is for our like mainstream culture to somehow conflate what is this like extreme and rare and bizarre form of body dysmorphia to just the kind of like normal insecurities that a young person might have about themselves. And we need to just say, like, that thing over there is a horrible mental illness that we would not wish on anyone. And we hope that those people like find in those extreme cases some way of managing that body dysmorphia that does not include mutilating their bodies. But instead, what we're doing is the exact opposite. We're encouraging anybody who has even like the slightest bit of insecurity. Okay, what 16-year-old doesn't have some insecurity about their body? And trying to convince them that not only is this some kind of, thing worth celebrating, some kind of identity worth celebrating, that they need to take the same action as the person who is under this incredible psychological duress. Okay. And so, I just want to say, like, I have sympathy for these individuals, like, who really are suffering. But, we're not dealing with that. We're like, we've gone way past that into some other realm.
I would only quibble with your point in one regard. I think it's a mistake to talk about it as a mental illness because when you consider something a mental illness, you're saying it's analogous to, or really an expression of, a physical illness, in the same way that, let's say you cut your hand, it gets infected, and then you could treat it medically. You can treat it physically with antibiotics or whatnot. This isn't a mental illness in the same way that you'll say someone has, meth-induced paranoid schizophrenia, right? Someone that is a raving lunatic running around the streets, that needs to be, hospitalized in a long-term kind of coercive setting. This isn't the same thing, because if you look at the text messages between the Charlie Kirk assassination and his trans furry lover, they're very lucid. This person is intelligent. This person has the capacity to reason. This person is not mentally ill in any real sense. This person is radicalized by an ideology, and in all of these cases, I think that's a much better way to look at it, because then you realize the problem is not a medical problem. The problem is a cultural problem, a digital problem, a law enforcement problem, a behavior problem. And I think mental illness is actually part of the reason we have this problem in the first place, because people are treating it as a psychiatric disorder that can be cured through cognitive behavioral therapy, or even worse, gender-affirming physical treatment. Like, that's going to make everything worse. Yeah,
I think we agree here. What I'm trying to say is, like, over here, way out on this island, way out on the far tail of the spectrum, there are real severe neurochemical imbalances that are pathological, are really like mental illnesses. The problem is we taking like ordinary people who are otherwise, maybe they but it's like in the normal spectrum of sort of like emotional discontinuity, and trying to slot them into that same category that really only belong. Like, look, when I was growing up in Northern California, every once in a while you'd go see like the trans person, okay? And it was like this bizarre thing that you would see from a distance. And it was like, look, that's sad, okay? But it's like this very bizarre thing that exists way over there. Okay, anyway, I think we agree on this point.
Okay.
More than we disagree.